Hi, welcome to the market alert for Wednesday, the 13th of March 2024. So big tech bounces, but hot inflation hits bonds, bullion and Bitcoin. US stocks were mostly higher and shrugged off firmer than expected CPI numbers that were released yesterday. Inflation hot, consumer prices hit record high, up 19% since Bidenomics began. Food costs up 21% since Biden term began, but non-supervisory wages are only up 18%. No surprise, S&P all-time high on tech rally, but bonds sold on hot inflation there. And finally, that is not the direction the Fed wants to see. Wall Street reacts to the hot CPI print. Inflation has started to move sideways and remains well above the Fed's 2% inflation target. This means the Fed will keep rates higher for longer. Economic news today, we've just got GDP from the UK and the US 30-year bond auction. So let's have a look at the markets and kick off with the Dow. So the Dow yesterday moving back to the upside on those numbers. As you'll see in the 30-minute chart, the market shook out first, but in the daily chart, we've gone back up to 89% retracement from there, projected back. Market's going to have no trouble moving higher now. If it moved higher on those hotter than expected CPI numbers, then it can move without them, can't it? So more highs to come. There's the shakeout for yesterday. You'll see this in more detail when we look at yesterday's trades in the 2-minute chart and the actual how wild it was. So the market down, then up, and then continuing to up with a bit of a pullback there back to the high, finding support, as did the DAX, oddly enough, yesterday. Speaking of which, let's have a look at the DAX. In the DAX, new all-time high, 17,993. In fact, we've actually been higher than this. Depends which platform you use. IG index actually breached the 18,000, and IG is probably the closest to the real world market prices, I would have thought, because most of them just make up their own, and there can be quite a difference between different platforms. I know that core spreads a few years ago was 10 points difference to the real Dow futures and cash market. So 17,993 on the Trade Nation platform, so it just got a bit to go up there, and it'll soon do that this morning, and then we'll see what happens when it gets above 18,000. I mean, let's just have a quick calculation now, see how much the market's put on since the Santa rally started back in October. I think this takes us back to October, if I recall. It does. So let's have a quick look. So from there, currently we're up 3,400 points. That's a lot of points with no correction in sight for any of these markets at the moment. So still moving to the upside, as can be seen there. S&P 500, despite it saying it made a new all-time high, it probably has on the CME. But in this particular platform that I'm using, it's not. So if it's an all-time high on the CME, that's all that matters. That will drag the market through as far as the other platforms are concerned. Again, you can see the market's reaction, but it was over in a flash, and it was up. And now you can see we're going to go through the highs today. We've got nothing to stop it from moving higher. FT100 also moving higher, and if you have a look at the monthly chart, you can see that this is about to break to the upside as well, as it takes out that resistance to the left. It will be going back up to new all-time highs, which if I recall came in last year, February 2023, so it's taken a year for the market to start to move higher, but it's going back to the all-time highs as well. There's the daily, there's the 30-minute for yesterday, barely took any notice of the US CPI numbers and continued higher. Bit of weakness overnight, but I'm sure we'll soon turn this around and move the market back to the upside. US dollar up yesterday, which you'd expect, as there's no chance of rates being reduced at any time soon. So that's why you're seeing the dollar gain a bit yesterday, which obviously impacted in the metals. So let's have a look at those. Starting off with silver, hammered to the downside. That's just the start of the retracement that's going to be coming. So expect lower prices in silver. You can see they barely got back up off the low of the shakeout yesterday, and struggling with the close as well. So watch the low being taken out today and heading back down to 22. In the gold market, down as well, but nothing like silver. and expect that to remain sort of sideways to higher while silver gets hammered. And there you can see the sell-off in gold, but already above the close as well, so showing a bit more strength there. In the gold-silver ratio, sideways, expect this to break out to the upside as we head back to these highs, as the manipulation of this market continues unabated, and has done for, I don't know, I've been at it now for 30 years and the prices are still under the cosh. So we'll just have to wait and see. One day it'll be allowed to move, but at the moment it is not. So let's have a look at yesterday's trades. So the market sideways to lower, down to the high, through the close, and then the market continuing to drift lower there, then finding support and starting to make its way back. But obviously sideways, waiting for the 130 news, so prices remaining in that sideways trading range back to the high. Must keep the market above the high if you want to keep making new all-time highs. And then we get to the release of the CPI numbers, and you'll see the impact of this straight down, and then the market coming straight back. And that's how you do it. Then you take it through the high, and then you keep the market moving, keep it above the high. That's the trick. And if you drop below the high, like we had the short here, which I did, then as this closed out, we then got back through the high and off we go. And it's a shame I got out of that just at the scalp, because after the market then continued all the way up, and if we go back to here, you'll see just here, if I just run this a bit more slowly, you will see that I'm actually just putting in the all-time high just so that I can see where it is, and that's why I should have stayed with it once the long trade had actually broken through the scalp, but I didn't. So yeah, the 17,000 whatever number it was at the time, I've forgotten now, 17,909 I think it was, wasn't it? Yeah, it is. I'm just putting it up to that level. So I added this in so I could see where the market was going, and sure enough, as it unfolded in the afternoon, the market headed up for that number, and you'll see it come into view. There it is, the pink line there, and then the market going through this after the 4 p.m. cut-off there. So there you go, all-time high once more. Whoops, bring that back. All-time high once more for the German DAX there. So overnight, prices sideways, but you can see they're already coming off the 200 MA in the 2 minute. The high is going to have no problem being taken out. We're going to go through the 18,000 as well. And we've got the GDP numbers. I think they were GDP numbers, weren't they? Let's just double check. Yeah, GDP numbers, if they come out at forecast at 0.2 after being previously at minus 0.1, then there's no problem for the DAX to rip through this resistance to the upside. Expect more. As I said, we've got the CPI numbers out of the way, so what is there to send the market to the downside, barring a black swan event or a geopolitical event? So there we go, that's it for this one, and as ever, thanks for watching. See you in the next one.